Hey, morning. Kind of logging this one in a little early because it's going to be a pretty busy day. The biggest thing that I think is on my mind today is that I subscribe to a lot of channels on TikTok that are just basically like conversation type things. That's really what interests me, is that people go on and talk out their viewpoints on whatever, men and women, societal norms, the whole, sexuality and gender stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. But the one thing that I do notice on most podcasts or channels or anything that you want to say is that there's kind of this split where there's a bunch of like blaming. And I'll stay with like the men and women thing, like men do this and women do that and men do this and women do that and all this kind of stuff. At some point, my curiosity to all of these channels is like, okay, we get it, but now what? What do we do with that information? So there's a lot of kind of volleying blame, and there's volleying, I don't know, describing certain things on different sides of the table. And it's like, okay, cool, we get that, but that it just sort of gets tired after a minute. And it's like, okay, so what do we do? Like what do we do? Let's talk out what we genuinely do. And I think a lot of times folks don't really take it much further than that, right? Like, men do this and women do that. Okay, what do you expect them to do? What do you expect, the guys to do? Guys, what do you expect girls to do? All that kind of stuff. And then why? And then how do we get to that point? Or how do we come to some sort of, level ground on it all? I think that's probably like the next part of the conversation, because, all these people do this and all those people do that and whatever. It just kind of goes back and forth, and it gets really repetitive. Rather than to say, okay, so now what? Where's, I don't know. I don't know if you want to call it healing. Holy crap, that dude almost hit me. I don't know if you want to call it like, where's the healing, or where's the journey really? Like, what are we accomplishing? What are we trying to say? What is the thing? I think that would be a great thing to start to hear, is like, okay, let's get out our grievances. Let's talk about it. We'll all write it down. And then let's talk through, okay, all men do this, which I don't necessarily agree all men or all women do anything. I don't think all of any, whatever you would consider a group of people, do anything. I think that there are some particulars or some things that are commonalities. But I think that's probably one of the first things that a person could adjust in their own mind, is like, okay, so all, that's a big statement. That's a big one. Are you sure about that? And then also, with that, maybe approaching things from a viewpoint of, okay, just because I'm for men's rights on a subject doesn't mean I'm against your rights. Or just because you're for XYZ doesn't mean you're against necessarily ABC. And there's an ability to be a bit of a melting pot, I would imagine, where I could say, like, I'm for men's rights, and somebody else could say, well, I'm for women's rights. Okay, let's talk that out. Let's talk out what that really looks like on a societal thing. As long as we're all just kind of, battling it out and talking about, what should or shouldn't be, or well, you do this, well, I do that, well, you do this, and nothing's ever going to happen. I think I would love to start seeing the conversations lean more toward, okay, you're for this, you want these things, and here, let's talk that out. How do we do that? And also something that I would like to see, or love to experience or witness on these podcasts, is I think a lot of people that are involved in groups really need to circle back to their group, and this is across the board, this happens everywhere. We need to circle back to our groups, whatever group that is, and really identify unproductive behavior and put those people on blast, or ask them to leave the group, or something. You know, something's got to happen internally. And I think that kind of stuff really needs to be a bit more public. I think we need to start having arguments within our groups about, like, men want men's rights. Well, we need to start taking these people who essentially agree, but start talking out different areas within, you know, the whatever man's group or woman's group or whatever, where it's like, whoa, here's where I really don't think that we're being fair to the other side of the fence, or here's where I think that we're hurting ourselves with these certain activities. I don't know. It's just kind of a point. I was on the old throne a little earlier, and I was flipping through some of these podcasts and stuff, and it's like, well, you do this, well, men do that, well, women do this, well, you did it, and it's like, I'm for this, and, you know, and I'm against that, and I'm for this, and I'm against that. It's like, well, why do you have to be? If you're for something, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be against a whole entire other group of people. You might be against some ideologies, or you might be against some things. You know, you might have an opposing position on certain facets of it, but it's like, well, I'm pro men's rights. I have 7 daughters. Why would I be against women's rights? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So, or I'm whatever. You know, like, you can go on and on about the different positions. Yeah. I think that's kind of the way I hope that these podcasts will start to lean. Where we stop talking about, well, men do this, men do that, or at least not have the whole conversation be, well, you do this, well, I do that. Well, men are liars. Well, women are cheaters. Well, men are this, women are that. Men are deadbeats. Well, women are abusive. It's like, okay, well, let's get out our grievances and let's begin to talk that out. And also, when we get all that information, and if you're some kind of mouthpiece for your group, whatever that group is, maybe it's time for you to turn around within your own group and say, hey guys, this is where we're falling short. And isn't that the point? The point is not to argue, and the point is not to collect enemies, and the point is not to get on different sides of the fence and just so that we can all identify who we're supposed to be against. The point is progressing our society and making this place a place that is accommodating to other people. But I think the conversations really stick more toward, you know, it's more of a war rather than a debate, and even not necessarily a debate, but rather than a discussion of trying to move it forward. Kind of turns into you, me, you know, I'm this way, you're that way, you know, I'm Coke, you're Pepsi, I'm Ford, you're Chevy, you know, that kind of thing. It's very divisive. And I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't get too far down into the whole rabbit hole of all of that PSYOP stuff, but it is what we're doing a lot of, and I think it would be healthy for us to say, okay, we're going to spend half the podcast talking out the grievances. We're going to take notes. I don't know if we need to take a break, talk this stuff out, you know, amongst ourselves, and then reconvene and then begin the conversation about how do we move forward. What would be the most productive ways to move forward? What's one step we can take right now? And all of that kind of stuff. And also taking notes about how you can circle back around to your group and say, hey guys, this is where we're falling short within our own group. Because just because you're part of my group does not make you infallible, and it does not make you necessarily right of necessity. So if we're tripping up somewhere, we need to circle back, instead of like you, me, you, me, you. No, it's like, hey guys, this is where we're messing up. You know, and a big one for I mean, there's a lot. I'm not gonna get into all that, but yeah, I'd love to see that. If anybody runs a podcast or anything like that, and it's a more conversational sort of platform, love to hear how we move forward after we get out all of our grievances or whatever, blame or whatever discussion that's on the table. How do we move forward in it, and how do we start to have those conversations and be geared towards saying, okay, I'm Coke and you're Pepsi, and let's talk it out. Let's stop being oppositions, and let's start to create a scenario where we're thinking about it, and we're really considering, where am I going wrong, and where is my group falling short, and how can I help you in your group, and also, we'll talk out the grievances about things that may be leaning toward unfair toward one or another. But imagine if we all just kind of got together and just decided we're not fighting anymore. We're just gonna figure out how to do all this. I know that'll never happen, like a global kumbaya, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. All right, be good.